I'm thrilled to introduce Emily Cegielski, our Worth Editorial Director, who's leading the next session on making a difference through the power of commerce with two fantastic founders, Beatrice Dixon, who is the founder and CEO of the Honey Pot Company, also named as one of our groundbreaking women, and Sara, Rodell, co-founder and CEO at Loop and Tie. So a huge welcome, and Emily, over to you.
Hi, I'm very excited for this panel. So we're talking about making a difference through the power of commerce. The economic and societal unrest of 2020 brought with it many powerful lessons. But one of the most important was around the power we exert with every dollar that we spend. The retail industry is facing a reckoning with their supply chains, and companies' missions have been brought into the spotlight. So in this session, we're going to be discussing how the power of commerce can be harnessed to make the world a better place. I'm so thrilled to be joined by two incredible panelists, Sara Rodell, founder and CEO of Loop and Tie, a streamlined and sustainable way to manage end-to-end corporate gifting, and Beatrice Dixon, co-founder and CEO of the Honey Pot Company, a plant-based feminine hygiene line created with the goal to provide women with a healthy alternative to feminine care. Thank you guys so much for being with me. I'm so excited to talk to both of you. Since we only have 25 minutes, I'd love to just jump right in. So we all know that COVID-19 has shined a spotlight on a lot of the issues that have plagued the retail industry for years. So I'd love to start by hearing a bit about what each of you have experienced this past year and how you've navigated some of the challenges brought on by the pandemic. Sara, do you want to start?
Sure. Really excited to be here. And Beatrice, I'm such a fan of what you're building. So I was really excited to just be listening.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
So yeah, I think, COVID-19 was a way to just expose a lot of flaws that have been in the system before, but I think have been hidden. And so, I'll answer that question in two ways. First, what I experienced as a consumer, and then what our company experienced. So for me, a big thing that I was paying attention to is how easy it is for small retailers to go out of business and how much harder it is for the larger retailers to go out of business. And the mentality that we have as consumers around, I'll call it an Amazon Prime mentality, where if something isn't arriving tomorrow, we're just prioritizing efficiency over all else. And I think when you're a buyer that behaves that way, you kind of set up a dynamic where it becomes possible for the demand for smaller retailers to go away. And so we really saw a lot of that happen. And a lot of choices, I think, that we need to make as consumers of what we want to be supporting. And, and for us as a business, we rely on a significant amount of small retailers. And so seeing how fragile their infrastructure was when compared to some of the larger retailers and folks that can handle larger orders, it became really necessary for us to choose, okay, do we focus on doubling down with our smaller retailers, or do we move away and focus on maybe lower risk, larger retailers as suppliers? And for us, that was very much, it came back to what's your brand values and what do you believe in? And so, we made a decision of wanting to make sure we continue to support small businesses. But I saw how you could go either way, and we're a small business ourselves, right? So I think it created a lot of really challenging decision points for retailers, resellers, and consumers.
B.
Wow. Ask me the question again, because I was listening to what she was saying. So
how have you navigated the challenges that have been brought on by the pandemic?
I mean,
it's a question.
It's a funny question, because nobody knew how to navigate it, right? In the beginning, when all this went down, nobody knew what to do. Our suppliers didn't know what to do. The ports didn't know what to do. The retailers nobody knew what was going on, right? So what we did is we tried to breathe for a second, and then realize that nobody had their shit together, first of all, right? Because, you know, if we got ourselves bogged down, which was very easy to do because we didn't, it was just an uncomfortable environment. And the thing that also made it uncomfortable for us is we had just went viral, right? So we had just went viral, saw where the holes in the boat were from that. And then, and the boat was going down, right? Like the boat was like, the tip of it was in the water already, right? And then COVID happened. And then it was like, oh no, like where are we going now? So it was extremely uncomfortable. But the way that we navigated it is like I said, we literally were honest with our retailers. We were honest with our customers. We were honest with our customers when we went viral, and we didn't have, like, our website there was a glitch in our website where it allowed people to order even though the products that they were ordering were out of stock, even with them marked at 0. It was crazy. And so we were already doing lives, and you know, I was getting out in front and telling people what was going on, and telling people that we didn't have the things that they ordered, and every piece of car stock that we kept in our office, every ounce of it, like thousands of dollars of it, if not tens of thousands of dollars of it, we were shipping out because we had to figure out a way to fix the issue, because we had thousands of orders that we had to fill online. Mm-hmm. And then when it came to COVID with our retailers, it was a thing where we just didn't have enough inventory because we weren't prepared. Nobody's prepared for that, right? And so what we did is we actually went and we talked to all of our retailers, and we said, look, this is how much product we have until this date. We're not going to have any more, right? So we can send you 100 bottles a week, you 800 bottles a week, you 1,000 bottles a week. And that's what we have, and that's what we can do. And we can't do any more until we get more, right? So what we tried to do is just not make ourselves crazy, even though we were going crazy. And yeah, so it was beautiful because it taught us when you are failing, it teaches you, mm-hmm. right? And it showed us where the holes were in our organization, and it really helped us to get our ducks in the row and get ourselves organized. You know, with the things that we needed to focus on as a business. And for us, it was operations, supply chain, planning, obviously finance. It was very, you know, every ounce of the business had to be planned for, but supply chain and operations specifically, that team had to be built, and we needed the right expertise. And, you know, and it was hard to navigate. It was extremely uncomfortable. But I'm a fan of being uncomfortable because typically when you come out of that, you know, it's like when you haven't been working out and then you're working out for like a year, you're going to see the muscle that you've built. So I think it was the best thing that ever happened to our business.
You know, I feel like that is one of the silver linings that has come out of the pandemic, is that there is a much greater awareness been brought to small businesses and mm-hmm. a lot of the evils of some big box retailers. Mm-hmm. And really, a company's mission is now more important than ever. People are actually paying attention to that. And I'd love to get you guys' opinion as to why did it take COVID and this pandemic happening for us to start really paying more attention? Not to say that people weren't paying attention before, but I think now it's kind of gone mainstream to the point where people want to know what the purpose of a company is, who the leaders are behind it, what their, you know, leadership teams look like. and what's important to them. So why now? Sara, I'd love to get your take on that.
Sure. So, you know, I think that it's a part of a general, I'd say, global shift in consciousness that's been kind of in formation, but really been gaining momentum. That I think, you know, COVID and the whole experience with the pandemic, I think taught us on a very personal level, so much of what we thought was always true was true in relative, right? So, you know, we thought we didn't imagine a world where we wouldn't have to go into an office every day. Well, yeah, all of a sudden here we are, you know, and so I think that what we're seeing in this really interesting way is a breakdown of all of the things that we thought were always true that kind of cause us to be a bit more reflective than when you're sort of in the mix and you're fueling that busyness story that we always have about, you know, it's too much is going on, you can't stop to reassess. We got a chance to stop and reassess. And I think, you know, one of the most powerful experiences that I had during this time is I noticed how many conversations that I had with customers, with you know, people that I didn't know very well that got really personal really quickly. And I think part of that is because you can't hide the life that's happening behind you in a Zoom square. You know, at the very beginning, you didn't have backgrounds you could put in. And I think that that's done a lot of you know, a lot of good in how people's mindset shift beyond that as well. And I think that the more aware you are of yourself and what you need, you realize how much power you have with the choices that you make, with the products that you're buying and the way that you're showing up in the world. And so I really think that what we're seeing for, you know, to answer your question of why now, I think that there was a really big shift to incorporating mindfulness into your life and mindful practices that has become shifted from a nice to have to a need to have because of all the anxiety and stress that we're all dealing with. And it's just, we hit breaking points where you couldn't keep doing the things you were doing. You know, you started looking for other ways of being. And so I think it's just a natural expression of when you're taking better care of yourself and you are more mindful, you also think about how every action you take has a ripple and has an impact in the world. And in our society, that very much is what you're buying and who you're supporting. And every dollar that we have is a vote. And it can be very overwhelming when all of a sudden you realize that power in your wallet, because all of a sudden you want to be as purposeful as you can with each product decision you're making. And so I think that, you know, along with that, there's a certain patience that needs to come with it of realizing like we're all doing the best we can with the information we have, and the information is shifting. And it's a really good thing. We're holding our companies accountable. We're holding our leaders accountable. And, you know, nobody gets a free pass anymore. And I think that I'm really excited to see what changes happen because of that shifted mindset.
Yeah, me too. B, how do we keep this momentum up? Like right now, people are thinking about it, but you know, once the pandemic's over and small businesses are, you know, making a comeback, but we need to keep voting with our wallets. We can't let this slide.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree with everything she said. You know, I think that when you're faced with your mortality, and a lot of us saw what the media was portraying with all the illness that was happening, and what was happening with race. Let's call this race wars, right, in our country. When we think about all the things that happened during COVID, and everybody's sitting down and everybody's scared, right? Like, vibration is a thing, you know what I mean? And how a collective amount of humans, how wherever our brains are, whatever the things are that we're all feeling, we're all gonna feel, right? And so I think the combination of us being faced with our mortality and us seeing, you know, I mean, even though George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the humans that had to die, that really didn't have to die, but that died. All of these things combined, right? I think what it did is it woke us up as a society, because we actually had to sit with that on all sides as humans and earthlings. And, you know, and so I think that it's terrible that it took those things for us to wake up as a society, for us to be having these types of conversations, because there's literally thousands upon thousands of these same conversations happening even in this moment, right? And who would ever think that this would be happening? So that is a shift in consciousness, right? That is a really beautiful thing. And I think that with all the work that companies and organizations and humans and all the conversations on lives and Facebook and Clubhouse and Zoom and StreamYard and Hopin and all these things that are happening, how everybody's thinking about diversity and inclusion and, you know, all these things. I think the way that it has to keep up, I think that it will continue to keep up. I'm going to think positively, because too much money has been invested into it. Literally, companies have chief diversity officers now, right? Like that is a thing in large corporations. Not to say that it wasn't before, but I think even if it was before, there's been so much more intentionality about how companies are aware about how they look at the humans that work in their organizations, right? So I think that it'll keep up because, first of all, like I said, people have invested a lot of money into it, right? And humans have woke up, you know, and it's up to us, you know. We must vote with our dollars, but even more than our dollars, I think that the way that we have to keep it going is we have to vote with our minds, you know, because that's consciousness is the real thing. Whatever you're putting your energy towards, whatever you're really, really, really into, you know, we saw with the way that the politics happened, people that you may not have thought in a certain way, thought in a certain way. And that's fine. That's their choice to think in a certain way, right? To act in a certain way. We all have that. We all have that right, right? Mm-hmm. But I think now more than ever, people are just paying attention. And so I think the way that we keep it going is we have to be intentional with how we truly feel, whether it's left or right, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's black or white, whatever it is, right? We really have to keep moving towards this shift as humans, not as black humans, not as white humans, not as Asians, Latins, as earthlings, as humankind. We have to keep that energy going. And if we continue to do that, you know, there's no telling where this can go.
I love that, B. I think, you know, voting consciously with our minds, not just our dollars, that's an exact way of putting that. So I'm being told that we only have about 5 minutes left. So I do have a couple more questions I want to get to. First of all, obviously this summit is actions louder than words. And I think like the number one action and really that, you know, we've been discussing is voting consciously with our dollars and our minds, as B said. But how do we scale this progress that we're on right now? What type of actions do we need to be taking to keep this going? Sara?
You know, I think that's really just expanding on this topic that we just talked about, where it's living your values. And I think that it can be really easy to be disempowered and say the system's bigger than I am, like my action doesn't matter. But when we're talking about what creates a fabric of global consciousness, it is a vibration. And each action, like that's the beauty. Each action matters in such a big way. And especially right now with how interconnected we all are. And so, you know, the way that I look at that is thinking about all of the things that you do in your day and really asking yourself, do I align with this intention? Like get out of the blind sort of running your program mindset. And for me, like this is a practice that I often do. And it can be really humbling to be like, oh my gosh, I was doing this thing, or I was buying this thing, or I was acting this way. And I actually it wasn't in my awareness. And so bringing, I think the most important thing we can do is bring as much as we can and welcome as much as we can into our awareness, and do it with a sort of compassion and curiosity. Because when you're facing that sort of analysis that way, it makes it, when you're curious, it's much easier to make a change than when you're being righteous, or when you think that and so I think that identifying what you want to change in your values, and participating with your friends and family and in your work in a kind way will do wonders of change, and I think really create a lot of beautiful momentum.
I totally agree with you, Sarah. Wholeheartedly. Because you guys, listen, awareness is a thing, right? We're all making choices. All of us are, right? It's just, are you aware of the choice you're making, or are you not? Because even if you're not aware of that shit, that is still a choice, right? So we have to get aware about how we want to live, where we want to spend, what do we like, what don't we like, how do we want to live? That is really like at the base foundation of it all, you know? And the other thing to remember is that big things are a bunch of little things, right? So you may not think that your little decision matters, but little decisions is how you get to big decisions. Big decisions aren't, it's crazy, because like when you're watching a movie and it's like, think about what happened when Hitler came into power. This is a really good example, right? Those humans that went with Hitler, that did that terrible work, or even in slavery, right? That did the most maniacal, awful, disgusting things. Those humans by themselves may not have done those things, right? But as a unit, what you can do, the choices that you can make can be terrible, right? Or you can choose kindness, right? You can look at Gandhi, you can look at Martin Luther King, you can look at Harriet Tubman, you can look at these people that made these beautiful decisions at their own demise, right? Because some of them are dead now, were assassinated, right? But the point that I'm trying to drive at is that how do you want to show up in your life? Because it matters, right? Because just like Sarah said, we are all connected, whether we like it or not. Whether you think that we are or you think that we're not, we are all connected. We are connected to the plants, to the trees, to the water, to the grass, to the soil. Everything on this planet is connected. We're literally on an orb that's spinning at hundreds of miles per hour in this moment. And we're just sitting here having a conversation, right? So I think we just have to understand as human beings and humankind, and earthling kind, that everything that we does matter, everything that we do matters, everything. And you literally just have to pick kind of which side you want to live on and how you want your personal history to show up, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just couldn't think of a better way to end this session. That was so well put. Thank you guys so much. Sarah and B, it was incredible speaking with you. A real honor. Thank you guys so much. I hope everyone else enjoyed this session as much as I did.
Thank you. I did too.